This was the Dwapara Yuga, when the wheel of time was approaching its final moments. Lord Sri Krishna had fulfilled all his earthly responsibilities. Dharma had been established, and the purpose of his earthly incarnation was now complete. He decided it was time to return to his divine abode. For this final journey, he sought a peaceful place and went to a dense forest near the Prabhas region. There, beneath a magnificent banyan tree, he sat in deep meditation. His face radiated profound peace, as if the entire universe had merged within him. But destiny had different plans. In that same forest lived a hunter named Jara, who possessed keen eyesight, but made a fateful error. From a distance, he mistook Lord Krishna's lotus-like feet for a deer hanging from the tree and released his arrow. The arrow struck directly at the Lord's feet, and upon being struck, Sri Krishna, whom no weapon could ever touch, voluntarily began his journey to his divine realm. He departed for his supreme abode. After this incident, the Pandavas, with great sorrow and reverence, performed the final rites for their beloved Lord. The funeral pyre was lit and the sacred chants dissolved into the air. But then a miracle occurred. Lord Sri Krishna's heart, the Brahma Dravya, divine substance, would not burn. The flames of fire merely danced around it, unable to touch it. Even fire could not affect it. That Brahma Dravya, that divine heart, glowed with supernatural radiance. This was no ordinary object. It was the symbol of the Lord's immortal soul, destined to spread its divinity through the ages to come. This very Brahma Dravya would later become the foundation of Lord Jagannath's sacred idol. Even Arjuna, who was dearest to Krishna, tried extensively to burn that divine heart, but it proved impossible. Even Agnidev, the fire god, could not reduce that divine essence to ash. Then they heard a celestial voice as if receiving divine command. Do not burn this sacred heart in fire. Immerse it in the ocean. It contains the Lord's divine essence that will bring welfare for ages to come. The Brahma Dravya was released into the ocean, where that divine fragment carrying Lord Sri Krishna's supreme powers floated for infinite time, awaiting its next manifestation. Centuries passed, yugas changed, civilizations rose and fell, but that divine substance continued floating on the ocean waves, preserving its power. Then destiny brought it to Purushottam Kshetra, what we now call Puri. The divine substance came close to shore due to ocean currents, but no one knew of its presence. It remained hidden as a secret, as a wondrous power in the ocean's depths, waiting for the right time when King Indradyumna's devotion would bring it forth. Long ago, in ancient Puri, where peace and prosperity dwelt, King Indradyumna ruled. His governance was deeply rooted not merely in politics, but in the profound values of dharma and justice. King Indradyumna was not merely a ruler, but a supreme devotee whose heart harbored an extraordinary yearning. This desire was woven into his every thought and breath. His greatest wish was to have the divine vision of Lord Vishnu and to establish his sacred form upon his earthly realm. With every moment and every breath, one question consumed his mind. How will I receive the Lord's grace? How will I behold his divine form? How will his sacred presence be established in my kingdom? The night was deep, and the entire city lay in profound slumber. But King Indradyumna's sleep was unlike any ordinary night. He was entering a realm where heaven and earth become one. In this sacred night, the king received a wondrous dream. Lord Vishnu himself appeared, his divine radiance illuminating the entire dream realm. King Indradyumna became motionless upon seeing him, his eyes overflowing with devotion and wonder. O King Indradyumna, I am pleased with your devotion and faith. Your desire shall surely be fulfilled. Awaken my beloved devotee. You will find a divine log of wood upon the seashore, not ordinary timber, but one containing a fragment of my divine power. From this sacred wood, my divine forms shall be created. 3 magnificent images that will bestow my blessings upon the world. The message stayed deep within the king's heart. This was no ordinary dream, but an important indication, the first step toward fulfilling his long-cherished goal. When the king awoke, his mind was filled with calmness and renewed determination, knowing exactly where his search would begin. At dawn, King Indradyumna acted without delay. With the message fresh in his thoughts and determination in his eyes, he instructed his ministers and soldiers to search for a log that was expected to be found on the seashore. The king's orders were precise, and the search began in every direction. Soldiers moved through forests, examined riverbanks, and carefully explored the coastal stretches. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, yet no trace of the wood appeared. Some began to lose hope, but the king's resolve remained steady. When discouragement was at its peak and hope seemed to fade, one day they discovered it on the seashore, that same unusual log. This was no ordinary piece of wood. It appeared with a distinct shine and carried a look that seemed remarkable. The very log for which King Indradyumna had conducted such a long search now lay before him, an important find. News spread quickly throughout the land, and people gathered from all sides to witness this rare discovery that the king had once envisioned in his dream. When King Indradyumna himself stood before that sacred wood, tears of joy filled his eyes. His heart overflowed with devotion and gratitude. This was not merely a piece of timber, the Lord was bestowing his direct blessings. This was the manifestation of his dreams, the very same divine log he had seen in his vision, for which he had undertaken such an arduous search and for which his people had labored so devotedly. People began coming from far and wide to have darshan, that is, sacred viewing of the divine wood. They started singing his glory. There was wonder and devotion in their eyes. Some were bowing with folded hands, while others were prostrating on the ground, paying homage to the sacred wood. Devotional songs and hymns began echoing in the atmosphere. The entire city became witness to a divine miracle that day. Through this wood, God had given his direct blessings to his devotees. The next step was to take this divine wood to the temple and establish God's form just as commanded in the dream. That sacred wood was lifted from the seashore with great honor and enthusiasm and brought to a holy construction site near the new temple. There was a new excitement in the air, an anticipation. What would happen now? How would this miraculous wood take the form of God? Minister, this wood is divine. But who will carve it? Which craftsman is skilled enough to extract and establish God's form from this wood? Your Majesty, we have summoned the greatest artisans, but none seem to possess such power and divine vision. The king and his subjects were worried. But then a wonderful event occurred. Lord Vishwakarma himself came in the form of an elderly craftsman, as if he had descended from heaven. His face radiated the brilliance of knowledge and peace. Vishwakarma, who is the master architect of heaven, agreed to create the idols from the divine wood. However, he had one special condition. He said, "I will certainly do this work, but I have one condition. Until I complete these idols, I must be left completely alone. Under no circumstances should anyone open the door to my workshop until I come out myself and announce that the work is finished." Vishwakarma further explained that it would take him 21 days to complete this extraordinary work. Everyone agreed to this condition, and Vishwakarma went into his workshop, where he began the work of creating idols from the divine wood. Outside, everyone waited for the door to open, for God's idol to be revealed. Day after day, sounds of idol making echoed from inside the room. Sometimes the sound of chiseling, sometimes of carving. But as the designated time was about to end, the sounds of Vishwakarma's work suddenly stopped. Days passed and deep silence fell over the workshop. The queen became anxious and restless with worry and curiosity. She feared that something bad might have happened to the old craftsman. Perhaps he had fallen ill inside, or worse, had died. King Indradyamuna initially hesitated, not wanting to break their promise. But driven by the queen's insistence and their concern, and overcome by an intense desire to see the wood and those idols, the king finally gave in to pressure and ordered the door to be opened before the designated time. As soon as the door opened, a deep silence fell over the room. Everyone was astonished. Vishwakarma was nowhere to be found. He had vanished without a trace, as mysteriously as he had arrived. Inside the workshop stood incomplete idols, Lord Jagannath, Balbhadra and Subhadra in their distinctive unfinished form. Their hands and feet were not complete, their faces were not fully carved. King Indradyumna, his heart was broken. He deeply repented breaking his promise. Only one thought filled his mind. He had committed a great sin. The idols he had resolved to create were now incomplete and didn't seem worthy of worship. The king feared that the burden of his mistake would fall upon his subjects. When the king was immersed in this deep sorrow, Lord Vishnu appeared in a vision. With very reassuring words, the Lord explained to the king that these incomplete forms were a unique representation of his will and nature. The Lord said, "O Indradyumna, your human intellect cannot fully comprehend my complete nature. I pervade the entire universe, and my form is so vast that no human body or statue can represent me entirely. I am beyond your understanding. My form has no boundaries." These words of the Lord amazed the king. He realized that he had been viewing God in a limited form, while his reality is infinite. Then the Lord explained further, "The statues that appear incomplete to you are merely an optical illusion. My true essence, my complete cosmic form is whole and perfect. This incompleteness is only an appearance so that mankind can understand my infinite power. I always remain complete in my divine form." A burden lifted from the king's mind. He understood that the Lord's magnificence was not limited to physical forms. Delivering the most important message, the Lord said, "O king, through these incomplete forms, I teach humanity that we should all accept the imperfections in ourselves and others. Just like you, every human has some incompleteness, some flaws. My grace can transcend all these limitations. I embrace everyone along with their shortcomings. There is no defect in my power. Only love exists." Hearing these divine words, tears came to the king's eyes. All his fear and anxiety vanished in an instant. He understood that his incomplete statues were actually symbols of God's divine will, meant to convey a profound message to humanity. The king bowed to the Lord, and his heart was filled only with peace and devotion. He realized that God's grace and love complete every incompleteness. Now King Indradyumna returned to his kingdom with a new perspective. His face glowed with satisfaction, and his heart was filled with divine wisdom. Every year, a grand festival is celebrated with great fanfare, and the entire spectacle during this time is worth witnessing. So everyone say, Jai Jagannath, victory to Lord Jagannath.